Chapter 9, The Major's Long Day. The last of the day's sunshine was hanging around like a slice of peach, and rain was falling, but not hard. A tired Major Occam circled the building. This was her 5th situation since the orphanage, and her 3rd planet. She was running on empty, but that's the way it was sometimes. If you believe in something, blah, blah, blah. She thought about the orphan kids on Lysander and how happy they were to see her. That was the kind of thing that kept her going, kept her driving the other rangers to do more than they could do. Now more than ever, when everything was going wrong, the forces of good had to fight back. Then she thought about Anchor and laughed out loud. Anchor had shown up at the orphanage looking like he'd been dragged through a swamp. Apparently, he'd been under Starfighter 1 fixing the drive force when the Major had taken off. He wasn't hurt, and it really was too funny. Well, another story for the archives. The Major flew Starfighter 1 in close to the building. It was an old 3-story brick office block that, judging by the broken windows and the rusty hanging gutters, had definitely seen better days. The Major checked her printout again. 1984 Orwell Avenue. Oh, somebody had to be kidding, right? She turned on her scanner. The bottom 2 floors appeared empty, but the top floor lit up like a Christmas tree. So did the giant rats. Oh, figures, thought the Major. The only thing she remembered about George Orwell's book, 1984, was rats in a cage, tied to a guy's face so he wouldn't love his girlfriend anymore. It sounded like something the prince would dream up. She pushed the button for Ranger headquarters. A young woman's face, pretty, Asian, filled her screen. Stacy. Yes, Major. Tell me again what I'm doing here. Rebels have kidnapped Lady Katrina. They're holding her in that building. They want to negotiate, but only with you. I didn't think Lady K tolerated rebels. If you're the kind to tolerate rebels, you usually don't have any. Wow, Stacy, that was really profound. Yeah, I got a new boyfriend. What's that got to do with being profound? He hates small talk, so I've been practicing. I know about sports, too. Utah Jazz, Chicago Bears, New Jersey Devils. The 2 women grinned at each other. What's your sister think? Stacy's twin sister, also called Stacy because their dad was too lazy to tell them apart, worked at Ranger headquarters, too. Well, she can't remember the team names. She says things like Colorado Crazy Dudes. I bet the boyfriend thinks it's cute. He's cute, so it doesn't matter. The Major had a cute boyfriend too, Jake, but she'd lost him to a waitress at the Dragon's Breath, and the Major didn't blame Jake at all. How could he love her when she was never around to be loved? His last words to her had been, "At least I'll know where to find her." The Major's last words had been, "I'm sure you'll be very happy. Too bad the food sucks." The Major wished she'd been more profound, but it wouldn't have changed anything. Jake was gone, and that was that. I don't suppose we have backup handy, the Major asked, banishing Jake to the land of old boyfriends. Stacy pretended to look, but she didn't need to. Ever since Chester Newport had disappeared, all the 100 Rangers had been working flat out for weeks and all over the universe. The chance of another Ranger being in the vicinity was up there with winning Lotto Max. You're on your own, Major. Why don't I just blow the sucker up? Lady Katrina was one of the few council members the Major didn't like. She ruled her planet with an iron fist and had no time for those not as stylish or wealthy as she was. The next situation is worse, Stacy said. You haven't seen the rats. Trust me. Okay, if I'm not back in 30 minutes, you can have earwax. The Major glanced down at her right boot. Earwax was flopped over in his holster making Z's. He was tired too. What else have you got? Asked Stacy. The Major grinned and ruffled Earwax's fur, waking him up. Stacy, have you heard from Straight Shooter? He's on Garibaldi, something about lowlifes from Agrigiant threatening to poison the water supply if the locals didn't buy their seed. But they took off the minute they saw Shooter. Well, that's not like them. Straight Shooter said it was like they had to be somewhere else in a hurry. He's going to follow them, see what's up. The Major rotated Starfighter 1 so the wings were pointing up and down and approached the narrow end of the building. When she had her ship centered under the 3rd-story window, she turned the controls over to Earwax and pulled out her stun gun. Stunner, how you feeling? I need a week on a beach, Stunner replied, sounding like he really needed a vacation. Yeah, we all do. Not going to happen till somebody finds Chester Newport. Is anybody looking for him? Not in our world, remember? I imagine his daughter Veronica is giving the police a hard time. Probably hired private detectives. He's too famous not to be found. Well, maybe he's dead. No way, I'd feel that. You're always the optimist. And you're Eeyore. I prefer realist. The Major reached up and pulled herself through the Starfighter 1's door. The slice of peach was gone. the night sky a clear blue-black, studded with bright stars. The warm breeze felt good on the Major's face. She stood still for a minute, enjoying the quiet. Then she tugged open the office building window and climbed through. "Okay, Stunner, let's see what we can do with a bunch of giant rats."